Hi, Bubby. It's Grandma. I'm going to read you a book. I'm going to start reading you Star Wars. Remember the book that your cousin Bailey gave us a while back. And until it gets a little warmer for me to go to the library again, or it stops snowing, one of the two, I'm going to read you this on our bedtime, nighttime reading. So I love you and I miss you. And lots of hugs and kisses and sweet dreams. And I'll talk to you soon. So we're going to start with Star Wars episode 4. Even though it says 1 here in the book, it's actually 4. Called A New Hope. It was a vast, shining globe, and it cast a light of lambent topaz into space. But it was not a sun. Thus the planet had fooled men for a long time. Not until entering close orbit around it did its discoverers realize that this was a world in a binary system and not a third sun itself. At first it seemed certain nothing could exist on such a planet, least of all humans. Yet both massive G1 and G2 stars orbited a common center with peculiar regularity, and Tatooine circled them far enough out to permit the development of a rather stable, if exquisitely hot climate. Mostly this was a dry desert of a world whose unusual star-like yellow glow was the result of a double sunlight striking sodium-rich sands and flats. That same sunlight suddenly shone on the thin skin of a metallic shape falling crazily toward the atmosphere. The erratic course of the galactic cruiser was traveling was intentional, not the product of injury, but of a desperate desire to avoid it. Long streaks of intense energy slid close past its hull, a multi-hued storm of destruction like a school of rainbow remoruses fighting to detach themselves to a larger, unwilling host. One of those probing, questing beams succeeded in touching the fleeing ship, striking its principal solar fin. Gem-like fragments of metal and plastic erupted into space as the end of the fin disintegrated. The vessel seemed to shudder. The source of those multiple energy beams suddenly hove into view, a lumbering imperial cruiser, its massive outline bristling cactus-like with dozens of heavy weapons and placements. Light ceased arcing from those spines now as the cruiser moved in close. Intermittent explosions of flashes of light could be seen in those portions of the smaller ship which had taken hits. In the absolute cold of space, the cruiser snuggled up alongside its wounded prey. Another distant explosion shook the ship, but it certainly didn't feel distant to R2-D2 or C-3PO. The concussion bounced them around the narrow corridor like bearings in an old motor. To look at these two, one would have supposed that the tall, human-like machine, 3PO, was the master and the stubbly, tripodal robot, R2-D2, an inferior. But while 3PO might have sniffed disdainfully at the suggestion, they were in fact equal in every save loquacity. Here, 3PO was clearly and necessarily the superior. Still, another explosion rattled the corridor, throwing 3PO off balance. His shorter companion had the better of it during such moments, with his squat cylindrical body's low center of gravity well balanced on thick clawed legs. R2 glanced up at 3PO, who was steadying himself against a corridor wall. Lights blinked enigmatically around a single mechanical eye as the smaller robot studied the battered casings of his friend. A patina of metal and fibrous dust coated the unusually gleaming bronze finish, and there were some visible dents, all the result of the pounding the rebel ship they were on had been taking. Accompanying the last attack was a persistent deep hum, which even the loudest explosion had not been able to drown out. Then, for no apparent reason, The brasso thrumming abruptly ceased, and the only sounds in the otherwise deserted corridor came from the eerie dry twig crackle of shorting relays or the pops of dying circuitry. Explosions began to echo through the ship once more, but they were far away from the corridor. 3PO turned his smooth, human-like head to one side. Metallic ears listened intently. The imitation of a human pose was hardly necessary. 3PO's auditory sensors were fully omnidirectional, but the slim robot had been programmed to blend perfectly among human company. This programming extended even to the mimicry of human gestures. "Did you hear that?" he inquired rhetorically of his patent companion, referring to the throbbing sound. "They've shut down the main reactor and the drive." His voice was as full of disbelief and concern as that of any human. One metallic palm rubbed dolefully at a patch of full gray on his side, where a broken hull brace had fallen and scored the bronze finish. 3PO was a facetious machine, and such things troubled him. We'll end that tonight, and I will see you tomorrow. I love you, and sweet dreams. Night, honey.